Hello and welcome everybody to the Blue House Bull Session. Happy Wednesday to you. We are happy to see you here, joined by my very good friend Legos Jedi, and you all know
Oh, hi, hello.
at this point. Which side are you on? You're on one of these sides. One of these people is Uber Fuzzy, and the other one's probably the chat box. But we are glad to have you here today. I plan on grilling Legos Jedi about his charity marathons, but Fuzzy has some other questions for him. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are so they have some context coming into this?
Oh, that's me, not Uber Fuzzy?
You. Oh, yeah, you.
Hi, I am Legos Jedi. I do a lot of different things around the internet. By day, I am an iOS engineer. I work at this little company called Twitch. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. Who knows? I do charity stuff around the internet. I run the broadcast team at Zeldathon, so anything related to getting video out to Twitch, anything around getting audio, cameras, lighting, whatever that stuff, that's all under my team's purview.
Everything on the other side of the wall from the couch.
Yeah, everything. Literally everything. Oh boy. I do my own charity stuff. I am one of 3 admins for a little thing called Mini Kit Marathon. We're another charity event. It's kind of like Zeldathon, just a bunch of friends on a couch playing video games, playing with Lego. I'll focus on that. And I do other various bits and bobs with other charity stuff and other dev things. Right now I'm gearing up to finish updating an overlay for the Unprepared Casters charity stream that's happening at the beginning of June. So I'm involved with that whole shindig and everything.
Are you tied into BB4G at all? Are you going to be bothering our good friend Jiggy at the end of the month?
No, not presently.
Smart move.
I mean, it seems like it's a load of fun. I've never been involved, but it seems like it's a great time. So
it seems pretty interesting too. I'm trying very hard to get myself in there for the first year this year. You and I actually met through Zeldathon and became fast friends there. I have been watching recently as you've been streaming game development, which for some reason you blame on us.
Yeah, I guess. I have done video game development kind of on and off for a while. My high school happened to offer a class in video game development that I took, and it was like the most like basic like intro to game development at like a high school level. We use this graphics and multimedia library called Allegro. I don't know if either of you are familiar with this thing. Intimately familiar with Allegro. Yep. We use that. I made a Super Mario Brothers clone with that library for that class. That was like my first taste of doing anything sort of game devy related. And then didn't do anything really with it for a while. Fast forward to college. My college offered a game development track as part of being like one of your options for being an IT major. I didn't do that, but I took several of the classes as electives because they interested me. Because I am a glutton for punishment like that sometimes. I remember taking 2 classes. The first one was a sort of like I wouldn't say intro to game engine design, but starting to try to get you an intro into some of the different concepts around
frameworky stuff.
And that was done through, hey, you are going to mod Quake 2 and Quake 4.
Nice.
And that's your way of getting an understanding of some of these concepts. And then the sequel class for that, sequel of sorts, was, okay, now you've got like your feet wet. You're going to build a game. You're going to do it in C or C++. You're going to use SDL for this. And you're going to like write me a game design doc for the professor, submit it. And then like, this is a semester long project that you're just going to be building out this game that you proposed. And I'm like, I'm going to do a Link to the Past clone because that seems, simple enough. I don't have to worry. The nice thing about re-implementing things is I don't need to worry about the ideas for game mechanics and stuff. I just need to worry about like actually re-implementing these things. So it's a lot nicer in that I save time and I can just focus on like, I know how this thing functions already. I don't need to figure out how it functions. I just need to write the code to get it to do the thing it's supposed to do. I was a glutton for punishment because I got special permission to take both of those classes back to back in the same semester. I had to get like special permission from the professor to do that or whatever, but he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, you can do it. And I did it. If you have watched any of my streams for doing game development stuff, we've dipped back into that Zelda clone project some.
Yeah, I saw you were bringing that back up a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've mentioned this on my own streams. It's funny how I feel like certain things hold up. I feel like certain things don't hold up. And it's interesting how other development experiences influenced how I put together that project.
Even things that like do or don't have to do with gaming. As you just get more tools in your toolbox, it changes the way you think about and approach a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Because at the time I'd been doing iOS development for several years. Right. And that is very, graphical user interface based, very GUI focused. And so it's the way that you build out iOS applications is very much geared towards and structured towards different layers of interactivity, of users interacting with these things, tapping on buttons, dragging things around, whatever. And it has a certain style that it uses to implement those things. And a lot of those, not a lot, but like some of those things are kind of like similar in terms of at a high level what you want for a game, right? An iOS application is going to have some level of rendering, right? If you want to draw custom controls, you're going to drop in and get to some graphics level, probably CPU, probably not on the GPU for most of your things, unless you're making a game. But like if you're just like, I want like this button to have like a rounded background, or something. And at the time that wasn't a built-in thing on iOS. You drop down and do some rendering yourself, and the way that it kind of layers up a view hierarchy is kind of similar to how I approached, that influenced how I approached building up a scene in my Zelda clone to say I've got my world and I've got Link as a character and I've got a guard and I've got, all these different kind of layers of elements and entities. And that's just like how it approaches everything, that sort of tree of elements.
It's that whole child-parent relationship all the way down.
Yep. So like from everything, from rendering to how it processes thinking, and like game ticks and everything, all just like follows that pattern. And I did that because this is how iOS development is done and how you build up your view hierarchies. And it seemed like a cool way or like a good way to accomplish the same thing with this game. And so like you go back and I just read through some of my code. I'm like, oh yeah, like it's funny how like this is how I did this because of this other influence, this other tool that I had in my toolbox from other development experience.
And the new one you've been working on and streaming some of your development of for people who haven't seen it yet, and for people who don't know your like board game background, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Maybe throw it off.
Yeah. So, gosh, there's a lot of context here that I could give. So let me at least give some of this context. I watch a lot of Minecraft YouTube, and one of the people that I watch is this guy, Tango Tech. And he does, some good builds. He plays on a server with a bunch of other, popular Minecraft YouTubers. And something that he has done on the server that they play on is that he's built some mini games within Minecraft. One of the ones that he's most well known for is this game called Decked Out, which is a like deck building, dungeon crawling, adventure trading card game, we'll say. And the whole idea is that you've got a deck of cards that have different like abilities and different effects, and you build up your deck and you put it into the game, and then you go into a dungeon to pull an artifact out of the dungeon. And the cards that are in your deck give you certain abilities, give you certain like extra treasure, give you certain buffs or like defensive bonuses to ward off negative effects in the dungeon, and stuff like that. And it's all like vanilla Minecraft, and it's all like use like a bunch of redstone and stuff. But it's all set up so that like you go into the dungeon to try to get this artifact, and there are enemies. And as you spend more time in the dungeon, things get progressively more dangerous until you can get that artifact and get out. And he built this whole thing. He built 2 versions of this. He built it in one season that probably is considered like an alpha or beta, because it worked. It was functional. And then he went and did like a 4 times larger version of it, in terms of like size of the dungeon, and like a bajillion more like different cards and whatever for his deck building stuff. And built a whole new version of it on another season that is like, I'm gonna gush a little bit. It's like a masterpiece. Like the level of engineering that went into designing this thing, and just the experience of playing it, he did a phenomenal job. But one of the things that he cited with this is that it's actually like 100% based off of this board game he plays called Clank, which is a deck building, dungeon crawling, like adventure board game, where you go into a dungeon, you try to pull out treasure to build up a deck, all while trying to avoid like the watchful gaze of a dragon that's like in the dungeon that would prevent you from getting out. And so this mini game that he made on this Minecraft server in vanilla Minecraft was based off of this board game. And it got me thinking a little bit about like, that's really interesting. What other games could you do that with, in the sense of like what exists as a board game that could be an interesting twist, as a video game instead? And I had toyed around with this idea for a little bit, and then kind of just like, left it to the side. Nothing really, stuck with me. And then I started watching some of your streams, Jay, of you working on the cafe game. And I want to say your store stocking sorting game.
The can do one, yeah.
Yeah, can do. And it got me that itch again to like try to make a game. And I went back to that sort of like, okay, what's a board game that could, make an interesting video game? And I had somewhat recently picked up this game off of Kickstarter called Fit to Print.
Yeah.
Which is a boatload of fun. You are essentially the editor of a newspaper, and you are working to construct the front page of your newspaper. And you've got like a pile that you can pull from of articles and ads and photos. And you've got to spend, it's a timed game. So you've got like, we'll say 5 minutes to pull from this pile of these different types of content for your newspaper, and arrange it on the front of your newspaper, the front page of your newspaper, such that it obeys like the different rules and the different restrictions that the game employs. And then you score basic off of like how well you can fill up your newspaper, and whether you respect those rules or obey those rules or whatever. And it's a boatload of fun, and it's chaotic as all get out, and it's great. And it got me thinking, okay, that could be an interesting like deck builder kind of game, because I've been on a little bit of a deck builder video game kick. Balatro has come out somewhat recently, and I've got a lot of time sunk in that. There's this game called Lone Star, which is like a cross between like if you took like FTL and made it like a deck builder of some sort.
Hang on,
it's a lot of fun.
Let me write this down. I'm gonna have to look that one up, because I play a ton of FTL.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. And so I've been on this, this deck building kick for a while, and I was like, okay, Fit to Print is a fun game, and I think could be something interesting, could be something fun there to turn that into a video game and turn it into a deck builder. And so, I just started writing down some ideas, taking some notes, and putting together like a pseudo game design doc, if you will. It's not like fully structured. It's more like a brain dump than anything else, but it's, just a place that I can put all these ideas and all these thoughts on how I think this game should function, how this game should work based off of how Fit to Print plays.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, let me put together something. Let me try to get something put together to kind of like play with this, to get into the groove of making a video game. Um, and there were two things that I knew off the bat that I wanted to do. One, I wanted it to be cross-platform, so I wanted it to run on Mac OS because I daily drive Mac OS. But you know, people game on Windows, so it should support Windows too. Um, but also B, I don't want to write C.
Yeah.
I don't want to write C++. I would prefer not to learn anything else, another new language for this. So I'm going to write in the language that I use the most. I'm going to write this in Swift. Um, and those two decisions have yielded some fun times, shall we say. It's fun for a number of reasons. First of all, Swift is a multi-platform language. It runs on Mac OS, it runs on Linux, and you can get it to compile on Windows, though it is not as supported as it is for Mac and Linux. It's also fun because I'm not sure I would still call it a game engine per se, but the only things that really provide you with like the tools that a game engine would provide you in Swift
Yeah.
is this thing called Gameplay Kit, which ships on Apple platforms. That's going to give you your graphs, your pathfinding. It'll give you things like collision detections. It'll give you like quad trees. It'll give you all of those like foundational components that you need to like build a game. But that's only on Mac platforms, Apple platforms. I can't use that for my game. So I have painted myself into the corner where I am using a tool that is familiar to me, but without all of the tools that are familiar to people who make video games.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
even that kind of ties back to Allegro because for people who aren't too familiar with it, it's not a full game engine.
No.
It's a backronym for Allegro low level game routine. It's all the pieces you need to build a game engine or a game which is just an engine with assets when you
Yeah.
get right down to it. And this sounds a lot like that. It's the things you would
Yes.
use commonly, but not some overall manager.
Yeah. And so it's starting from this place where I'm having to build up a lot of things from scratch. I'm already starting to give myself a good foundation because I'm still using SDL, that graphics, that multimedia library that I used in college. And that thing like hasn't changed at all. Like it seems to like move at a seemingly like glacier speed for like updates and whatever. So a lot of what I knew and how things worked then still hold true now, like 10 years later, which is fantastic. That's exactly what I need for a project like this. So I've got game input, keyboard, mouse, controller input handled there. I've got my rendering handled. I've got like audio playback handled if I want that. I don't have to worry about like trying to learn, Metal on Mac OS and DirectX on Windows and whatever on Linux and build all these abstractions.
Let
It's all
someone
taken
else
care of for
handle
me.
that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there are certain things that I still need that aren't provided, out of the box. That are only provided if I was just like targeting Apple platforms, right? So like a component entity system, for example, some kind of abstraction for handling input, right? So that I could wire things up such that I can more easily say when you press, A on the keyboard, it's supposed to do this thing, right? It's supposed to have like semantic meaning rather than just like say a specific like player is listening for an A key press or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of these things. Something that I have done over the years is I have built up a collection of game development related resources. Jay, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I've scoured assets from this guy Kenny who does free game assets. I've purchased a number of resources and bundles from Humble Bundle when those have cropped up and whatnot. And so I actually had some ebooks related to game development and game development concepts. And so I started looking through just this library that I've built up, and I was like, oh, here's a book that's about like game development, like foundational concepts, and like what a component entity system is, and what like a stage manager is, and like how games do input handling, and these other things. And so even though I'm not working in a language or working with a framework that provides these things for me, I've still got the resources to understand how they are supposed to work, and I can build them myself. And so part of this whole process with just building up this game has been doing this learning, doing this understanding of these concepts, and building implementations myself so I can get to the point of actually building this game.
Yeah, you start off by making sure you've got a sound mental model for how everything works and stays organized. You implement that as your models, and then you go in and logic those together.
Yep.
Or at least you should.
Right, yeah. It's been an interesting experience as well, because I know like the things and the capabilities that Swift as a language offers, and it's part of what makes this process of having to build these things from scratch myself is it gives me an opportunity to look at the feature set of Swift and try to see where I can take advantage of the things that Swift offers as I'm building out these things, and as I'm, building a component entity system from scratch, or building a state machine, system from scratch, or whatever. And it's, it's been really interesting and really fun and whatnot to tackle this.
I'm gonna segue on that one and say, what's your plan
Sure.
for it once it's finished? Does Twitch have right of first refusal since you wrote it?
So as I understand it, this is totally a fine thing for me to do, because it is not a thing that competes with a feature set that Twitch offers and whatnot. If I were to say, I don't know, work on a donation platform for a certain set of charity events, then I would need to get some permission to work on that, get some sign off from somebody to be allowed to work on that, because Twitch does offer a charity giving feature. This was one of the stipulations actually of me joining Twitch, so I've already got that squared away. That's totally fine. So yeah, I 100% honest, I would not have joined Twitch if because at the time, I've been at Twitch for 2.5 years now. At the time, I was still actively developing the donation platform for Zeldathon. And it was, a make or break thing for me of continuing to be able to work on the donation platform. If they said no, then I'd be like, okay, no thanks.
You wouldn't have just stepped down to like be the drummer or something?
No, I don't think so. Because I mean, at the time, I was still the sole developer for the donation platform.
Yeah,
and
that is very true.
So it just, but talk to people, get the appropriate approvals, approval sign-offs, and everything's good.
Are we going to see it on Steam? Are you going to go all out with it? Are you going to put it out there and make money?
That's a great question. I haven't necessarily thought that far ahead. I definitely want to offer this in some form. I definitely want people to be able to download this and play this, whether it is something that just gets like thrown up on my website and people can download it, or whether it's like distributed through itch, whether it's distributed through Steam. I haven't made a decision there yet. It's still, I think, a little early in the game's life for me to make a decision like that.
Fair.
Considering at this point it just exists as a prototype where I can drag around boxes and place them on a grid. I think I want to get more of the game fleshed out and make it like an actual playable experience instead of just this prototype that I have before.
I understand what you're
there.
saying, but I do want to push back a little bit on that and point out that our first commercially released product is a piece of software where you drag boxes around on a grid.
Yeah, but I think I want to... I think if I'm going to make a decision to like set up a Steam page, I want to have some level of assets and something to make it a proper marketing page, which I don't have right now.
No, I do have.
Yeah.
I am very excited to see, and I'm very excited to follow along, and I am actively, like, literally following you on Twitch so I can see as you're doing that streaming. Speaking of which, let me give you a shout out here for anyone else who wants to find out how this game is coming along. Follow right there. Click the little heart icon. Make sure it's green or green. I think that's the color it's supposed to be.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Go shower your love on Letters Jedi. Go watch his progress come along. What else do you like to? It's game development. How much do you find yourself dog fooding, for lack of a better term?
It's there are certain things.
I know you're not on platform proper. You're on the mobile app, but still.
Well, I mean, there are still certain opportunities to dog food certain things. I remember that Twitch had just released like the first iteration of Stream Together called Guest Star, and I remember post a Zeldathon, myself and the at the time co-lead for the broadcast team, Luke, did a stream that we did as like a sort of post-mortem on the broadcast side of things of whichever Zeldathon event that was, and we just use this thing instead of like doing a Discord call. Just use this feature of Twitch just to kind of see how it worked and see how it felt and whatnot, and just gave it a whirl. There's the current set of enhanced broadcasting stuff that is currently in beta. For those that don't know what this feature is, it is a version of OBS, and I believe, I'm not going to say that just in case, that allows you to stream multiple encodings up to Twitch to distribute. So you can send a 480p, you can send a 720p, you can send a 1080p stream up to Twitch and get all of those different encodings to all of your viewers. And so even if you don't have partner status or you're not one of like the lucky affiliates, if there's like capacity for Twitch servers to do transcoding to give you all the different quality options, if you are using this version of OBS, you can create all those quality options yourself and send them all up to Twitch. So there's that beta that I'm a part of. They had a super early version of that I used to stream a mini kit with, and we had to be kind of hush hush about it. It wasn't a known thing, but at the same time, like if you're watching a stream that's not a partner and a stream that's not affiliate and they've got quality options, you're probably going to be like, what's going on here? Nobody picked up on it, nobody noticed it. So we didn't have to be like, just like a canned line of, yes, we're testing for something for Twitch. You may see, something different about this stream. That's about all we can say, that sort of response. We didn't have to break that out.
Yeah.
But, that was a thing that we were testing and giving a try beforehand, before, leading up to the announcement of stuff. Yeah. So there are certainly opportunities to dog food stuff and whatnot. It's a lot more for me as somebody who works on the mobile app. A lot more of those opportunities are focused on the mobile app because that is the code base I have access to and what I'm working in. So I have, I run the app in the iOS simulator and it's the latest version of the code base and all of the, unreleased stuff that hasn't shipped yet. And yeah.
You ever find yourself like remembering not to tell someone to do something that doesn't exist yet? Do you ever have that?
There have been a couple of times where I feel like I've heard people talking about something and I've just thought to myself, oh, you just wait, type of thing.
Oh man.
If only there was some sort of roadmap that would let people, these things they're not ignored. We have that idea. Yes. We are actively building it. Hold on. And not like, hey, why don't you have this feature? Why don't you have this feature? Like, we are working on that. Hold on. If only there's some way to communicate that to people.
It's certainly interesting watching Dan Clancy's streams sometimes as the CEO because he will
Yeah.
I'll just be watching his streams, you know, and like he'll be talking with like some other streamer or something, and they'll ask him something kind of point blank, and he'll just like say like, "Yeah, this is like the thing that's on our roadmap," and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, he just said that," and like now that's like
Is it?
knowledge, you know.
Is it now?
But I mean, like he's the CEO, so like he kind of can do those kinds of things, you know.
Yeah, I get that. It does give them a
And, you know,
certain level of permission to.
And I'm sure that, you know, those are planned in the sense of those things have been workshopped by people to know exactly how far and how much of these things to reveal in these kinds of streams. But it's just always so interesting to just like to have this secret that you know about, and then just
Now it's a secret that everybody knows about. Yeah.
you know, seemingly off the cuff, and maybe that's just, you know, like his, you know, a testament to like his personality, and whatnot, and just kind of like how seemingly unplanned this maybe is, even if there are, you know, however many people behind the scenes, you know, making a decision on whether to reveal this type of thing or not. But like, I remember there's a set of tweets where a reporter is, I think, I want to say the context is like covering, you know, something I want to say related to like something that like Trump was doing, right? And he just like says something in like some court case or just tweets something out, and then the reporter just like, oh my gosh, he just like said it. I've been working on this story for like 3 years, and he just tweeted it. You know, it kind of feels like that sometimes, of just like the sort of nonchalance of just, you know,
Yeah.
revealing certain things. But it's also, you know, like kind of exciting, because then you could be like,
Well, he said
You
it.
can
Now
be like,
I
I
can't
know this
talk
thing-
about it.
or the sort of like, yes, people could know that this is coming, and like I know from what I've seen that this is cool, and I just can't wait for people, you know, to experience this once it actually does get a full release and whatnot.
The thing that comes to mind with that, and this is kind of directed kind of at you, being a mobile person, is the mod view on the app. People have been asking for every single one of the features, the access to the quick buttons, to like every aspect of that, which is just superb, by the way, to you and your people. It's great. Every single part of that has been asked about in user voice, as we mentioned, 1,000 times. And yeah, I know you like your big launches and stuff, but if you're like, hey, we're working on a thing, just show us an early, you know, mock-up hand-drawn sketch, like we're working on a mod view. You know, yes, we hear you, we are working at it. Hold on. Which goes along towards that whole, you know, planned investigate, you know, flags on user voice.
Yeah.
I know it's not you, but like that goes a long way to letting people know that their voices are being heard,
Yeah.
and not nothing, just radio silence for 3 years and then big launch of a new feature. It's like, yeah, that's great, but there's these huge gaps in between the launches that we never hear anything about.
Well,
And you don't see, and it's either when it's big launches, they're great, but the radio silence in between, you know, you can either like iterate where you're constantly rolling out new stuff, which is Twitch goes in this up and down where they're like, you're always just constantly releasing iterative features, like, you know, every week. Like you got to start watching like the patch notes videos to find out what stuff is coming, or it's nothing, big new feature, big nothing, overhaul stream together, nothing, you know, it's
yeah. And I mean, like we do, you know, tease some of these things. Like we've gotten into the habit of Dan Clancy posting these roadmap blog posts at the start of this year. That we've done these I think twice now. That kind of gives a little bit of insight to the kinds of things that the company is thinking about, and the kinds of improvements to the site and improvements to the service that, you know, we're wanting to make. And, you know, we, you know, have a whole couple of paragraphs about like the mobile experience, the mobile app, it's, you know, itself.
it's gotten a lot better.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that you think that. As one of the people that works on it, I'm always happy to hear that people think, hey, yes, this is still doing what it's supposed to and doing it well, and whatnot. But I mean, like, you know, we've mentioned, because I went and found the blog post, like at least on the mobile side, you know, I'm just going to read a part of this. A part of investment in mobile will be adding new features to stories on Twitch to make them easier to share quick updates with your community on your stream. Blah, 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 blah. Let me skim through some other things here. Later this year, we plan to roll out mobile mod view on iOS to make it easier to mod from wherever you are. And so, like, there are, situations and places where we do give, these little hints, mm-hmm. these little nuggets of what we're planning on. And, we do a convention, 2 times a year. And I totally understand the appeal of wanting to line up the releases of certain features and certain, improvements to the service with those events. It's the same, reason why like people, it's the same reason why like people, like to look forward to things at like Apple's developer conferences and whatnot, because it's a thing that you can look forward to. And like Apple may hint at stuff, right? We just had the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and they, gave a preview of new accessibility features coming to their platforms. And like that's going to likely drop when iOS 18 and macOS 15, whatever version number we're on, in a couple weeks. But like, it's things to look forward to, and a way to build hype and build excitement around these services and these platforms and these technologies.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes find yourself frustrated with, I don't want to say the layers of man, everyone finds themselves frustrated with the layers of man. As far as the direction that you're going, are you feeling, I know there is a line you have to spout here, but
yeah,
how do you feel about the direction things are for mobile?
I mean, I am still working at Twitch. I have no plans to leave Twitch as it stands right now. I like the people that I work with. I like the projects that we are working on. I can't comment on specifics of things coming up, regardless of what I may or may not know.
Yeah, nobody's listening to this.
Yeah, it's fine. We've only got 5 viewers or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like, it's a place that I definitely enjoy working at, and I have no plans. I see myself sticking around here for a while. Because of the people that I work with and because of the things that I'm working on and kind of the general direction of things.
This is not your first professional development.
Sure.
As a software developer. Is this your first software development career position?
No, I've been doing software development as a thing since out of college. I took an interest in doing software development in high school. My freshman year of high school, starting with web development, and it's kind of just snowballed from there.
There's a lot of talk about the games industry specifically for software development. Game development as a business being aggressive and brutal to get involved with, and the passion of the people developing these things being used against them by some of the bigger studios. In my mind, Twitch is a gaming adjacent business, but it doesn't sound like you hit the same pressure there. They're not overtly leveraging your passion against you. Would you say that's a fair?
That's an interesting characterization. I definitely came to Twitch because I kind of viewed it as a dream job.
Yeah.
Right? That it was a platform that as a viewer and as a streamer myself, I spent a lot of time on, and I very much had that that feeling of I would totally love to work on this thing. I use it a lot. My friends use it a lot. I very much like the idea of working on projects that are things that my friends use.
Things
and
that matter
working
to
on
you
those,
in some way.
Yeah. And working on things that make it better for them especially like if they are basing like some aspect of like their livelihood on it, right? Just the idea of being able to be like, hey, like I know people who use this service and they have a great time with it. Like I want to, in a sense, like give back to them by getting a job at this company that, you know, builds this service, to just like kind of indirectly, in a sense, say thank you to like my friends and kind of like support them because of that. Um, and like, I wouldn't necessarily say that like, what's the best way to phrase this? I came into this with that like mindset of like this is a dream job for me because of that. But it doesn't necessarily like have to be Twitch. Like there have been
Yeah.
other jobs that I've gotten that have come from that mindset as well. And, same reason of like I know people who use this service, use this platform, and I want to like give back in a way, by continuing to make it better because I know people depend on it. I don't think personally I would kind of feel the same way about games in the sense of like it's it's more entertainment to me than like sure Twitch is entertainment, right? Like people are watching this because they either enjoy the person who's streaming and enjoy the content that they produce, the streams that they put on, or maybe it's like the sense of community that they get from watching a person or what have you, right? But like video games very much are like very entertainment focused in the same way that like music and movies and TV shows are very entertainment focused. And so I don't think I would necessarily have that same sort of feeling, I guess is the way to put it, of like my friends enjoy video games, so I'm going to go work on this specific video game
Yeah.
because I want to support my, that same kind of thing. And so like I don't think there would be that kind of sense of feeling taken advantage of or anything because of that,
Dig it. It strikes me as a curiosity. My day job is also a developer, but I work on document management software. And I have never in my, okay, I cannot say never. I know one person who is that genuinely passionate about document management. She's an absolute blast. I love her to pieces, but I only know one person who gets that into it. And because of that, there's some level of recruitment that they have to do. I mean, everyone's going to try to attract the best talent, but
Sure.
you have to give them a reason to work for you. Twitch didn't have to go out of their way to attract you because there is an interest you have in doing that. And the games industry as a whole is like that. There are people clawing down the doors to join one of the big studios because they want to make games because it's cool. And it gives them a unique leverage. So that's part of the reason the question comes up in the first.
Yeah, and like in games is an interesting thing because it's one of those things that like I certainly have an interest in, right? Otherwise I wouldn't be making this video game that I'm working on. But at the same time it is still just like an interest. I don't think I think it's one of those things that like will probably only ever exist in like a hobby level of interest.
Yeah,
for
it's
me,
it's tempered. It is for you a hobby. It is something you enjoy.
Yes.
You recognize that it would not be something you would want to do for someone else. That's really the only way I can put it, is for someone else.
Yeah, because like that's the reason why I'm making this game, because I think it would be an interesting game to
You want
make.
it to exist. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
It's pretty much you with Can Do and Cafe.
Yeah, I
wanted to do. Yeah.
It would be nice if I end up making money with some of the games. If I don't, well, hey, I still got the experience of making them, and I got to work with some amazing people while.
And I think also it goes back to that earlier question of like what's your distribution plan for this, and like are you gonna put this on Steam? And it's like I don't know, maybe, because like, again, like trying to make money with this is not the reason why I'm doing this. If that happens like consequentially along the way, cool, but that's not why I'm making this, and that's not going to like be the driving force that informs and like kind of dictates every decision that I'm going to make.
I guess my biggest reason for asking that question is I want to make sure that you're going to share it in some way. I am genuinely interested. I want to play this game. Please put it out somewhere, somehow. Throw it on itch as donationware. That's fine. That's cool. That saves you from having to host a website. But put it someplace we can get it. I will play it on stream. I will
I'm gonna
say
hold
this.
you to it.
I will say this. We at Hergel Studios have finally figured out how to create entries on IGDB, which is one of the sources that Twitch pulls for their list of games and categories.
Only the period.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So now Can Do is technically a category on Twitch. And that is a question I had for you, not expecting an answer, but you might know.
Yeah.
If there's a centralized place where you can check the stats on a category or a game, does Twitch have a way to look up how many people have played a game over?
I don't know of anything that exists that would at the very least be public facing.
Fair.
I know you can get like the live stats of how many people are streaming to a category right then and there. There may be some third party service that collects stats. I don't know what that would be if it exists.
So everybody's wondering where they're getting it from, and they're not just like checking every possible category all at once, because that would be kind of insane. So it's not. If there is, it's not very well documented, because there's
I'm not going to ask you to ask on Slack. I'm not going to tell you not to, but I'm not going to ask you to ask on Slack. But it's something that's kind of floated around. We've looked at a couple of the third-party services, and I mean, when you're talking about a game that has single-digit players ever and double-digit hours over its entire existence, it's for Fuzzy. It's for Fuzzy because he is competing with one of our mutual friends to be the #1 can-do streamer on Twitch.
No. Okay. And I never actually answered that question last week. It came up, but I derailed it accidentally. I was doing that because I was trying to game the Twitch system to get one of the streamer achievements. There's one of the achievements for stream 1,000 hours, and I was at like 950 or something. I'm like, I could just pad this by just streaming watch mode of just like anytime I'm like, hey, I'm going to stream later, but not till like, 8, 9 o'clock. So I'll just go live at like 4 o'clock and just stream watch mode unattended while I'm like making dinner and stuff. Just like pad my hours every time I go to stream.
I mean, he's there. The game's playing itself, but he's there-ish.
I do have the headphones on. I have the text-to-speech one. And like something comes up, I'm monitoring it remotely in the house. This is another question that I know you won't have the answer to, but I always did wonder how. I have followed Twitch from the very early on. Like, I was an avid watcher of Justin TV level things. Okay,
yeah.
So I've watched the rise and not fall, but the rise and settling of Twitch, and it's in its own right. And from the early, it has to be gaming. If it's not, you're not playing a game. Like get GTFO type levels to now where, the fact that the entire IRL exists or just chatting, it's whatever. It's a streaming platform. It's not a gaming platform. The people who stream, like, they're not even there or they're just sleeping. Like, the amount of people that, like, yeah, they're going to take a nap, but, like, they're still on stream, but they're sleeping, or the people that are, like, entirely unattended, or, like, how FK or un-AFK do you have to be for it to really be worth it? Otherwise, like, you're just throwing bits at Twitch just endlessly to no one, and you're not even there. Like, what's the point of that? Like, at least, like, okay, I'm streaming Can Do unattended, but at least it's something to watch. It's being entertaining. If I'm just asleep, it's it's a webcam feed, you know, it's a cam site basically, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because there are so many different like variants of,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, an unattended stream, right? Like maybe, watching somebody sleep isn't very interesting, but like we just had the like celebration of like what was it, 10 years of Twitch Plays Pokemon, and like you could
Mhm.
classify that as like an unattended stream, right? But the appeal of that is like the sense of community, because even if
Yeah,
like there's not a
there's
physical
a
person
reason
there
to
that's
be there.
streaming, right, everybody
Right.
is coming together to try to beat Pokemon, or trying to disrupt people trying to beat Pokemon, or like what have you, right? And so I think for those types of streams that exist, it's very much about the community and about experiencing something together than it is about like necessarily anything else.
So it's less of a focus on whether or not you're there as whether or not something
Yeah.
is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like I think the same reason that like probably people enjoy something like Salty Bet, right?
Oh yeah.
Is
But there's a reason to be there. There is
yes,
a content happening, not just
yes,
I. If I got up and walked away, you know, I went to the bathroom, you know, chair cam, chair
yeah,
stream, as they, you know. But if like I've known a lot of, especially like Minecraft streamers, as like they'll stream long sessions, and a very someone like a what you saw Stray Mav streamed Australian guy streamed a lot of Minecraft. There was one time he was doing one of these long marathon things. He got up to go like, you know, make a sandwich and like take a shower to like wake up, and then he just like fell asleep, and it was just streaming nonstop for like another like 9 hours, and nobody could get to it, and somebody had to like one of his friends had to basically socially hack him to get into his email so they could reset the stream key and get the new one out of there. They basically had to like hack him to get his stream key to take the stream out because it was just streaming. He was like he slept for like
mm-hmm.
18 hours or something, but like
Mm-hmm.
he just walked away and didn't come back, and we're like, what do we do? You know, there's
But for like something like that, like sleeping is not necessarily like the regular content. He
right,
is still like a
right,
Minecraft, streamer, and so
right.
people are going to be watching him because he plays Minecraft, and that's like the community that he's built up. The fact that he went and fell asleep because sounds like was doing some
Extended
kind
AFK.
of yeah, was
Long
more just a
long stream.
consequent of the fact that he did a long stream
Yeah.
than making a conscious decision that this is the only thing that he is going to stream.
Jiggy just did something similar. He was doing some anniversary thing, and you know, 50 hours, and you know, he took a couple breaks where he like slept. He took a brief nap.
Your device
Sometimes.
is offline. To connect, swipe down from the top of your screen. Then go to Settings, Network.
Devices.
No, there's something. My mesh network is like having a fit. Like individually, the nodes are like going off,
Mm-hmm.
and I have them laid out correctly where they overlap and cover coverage. But like
Mm-hmm.
if one goes out, that whole side of the Venn diagram is just off. So
Yep.
randomly, half of my house will just go as they're like whack-a-moling each other or something. I gotta like kill all of them and reboot them. One by one, all my echoes are just like going
Yeah.
offline like in sequence, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I just did a
Hey.
fairly major overhaul of our network. I can move a thing and then just take this and be like, hey, I made a rack with all of our stuff, which is fun.
Like that.
Yeah, I'm ramping up into being a big home lab person. So
It's on my list. It is on my list. I'm gonna
it's
do
another
it.
one of those fun but expensive hobbies. I seem to have too many of those.
Do it. Do it. I got terminal
reason-
gear acquisition syndrome over here.
Oh, you
Yep.
can't even see half of them. That whole side is just more and more guitars. It just goes into all this. The reason where I was going with that is as we're building a lot of these games, entirely just to taunt Jason, I keep like, hey, can we have a watch mode in Can Do? Or we made a a Suika game clone called Piggle, just
Hmm.
pigs instead of fruit, because and I'm like, this is fun to watch. I want to watch it on stream, but I can't like watch somebody playing it forever. Can we make the game play itself? As we get more and more things that are a reason to be there and not just broadcasting nothing, but where is the line drawn of the game is playing itself? It is basically effectively like a very fancy screensaver.
Hmm.
Like, where, I guess if people watch it, it becomes, if somebody considers it art, it is art, and therefore, if I make the thing that is basically unattended content, how how is that looked on from like the Twitch side?
I don't know. Um, that is all stuff that is I wouldn't say hidden away, but it's
Policy
not a part
level
of
is
it's not a part of my team. We've got a whole team our trust and safety team, are the people who are going to make decisions around policy for what's allowed and what's disallowed on Twitch. And
We're just gonna
so
have to have Dan on as a guest.
yeah. That'll be fun.
Send him an invite.
Hey,
He might show
CEO
up.
Twitch, come hang out with us and our viewer. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, for somebody who is in the position that I am in and purely focused on the mobile apps and more so even focused on just building out the systems and frameworks and tools for our other feature teams to be able to be successful in building their mobile features. Like a lot of these decisions that kind of affect how people perceive Twitch are just so far abstracted from our team just by the nature of who the other teams are that are making these decisions and having these discussions to come to these decisions that it's just not something that I have visibility in and into and really have an understanding of how people think about things, how people view things, what goes into making a decision that then bubbles up and affects policy that gets published.
No, and that's definitely fair. I mean, we all collectively came into this knowing that there were a lot of times in this conversation, and I thank you for indulging us in that we were going to ask you a question, and your answer would pretty much have to be, oh. So thank you for bearing with us for those.
I guess the fact that like the whole rerun feature and all the assorted flags and stuff that go with that exists means they're kind of okay with it. If like this is pre-recorded content, but you're still broadcasting it, as long as you flag it, like how is that any different? I'm just like pre-creating meal prep is just pre-making leftovers. If I record the content and then I run it, if I make a video and I run it as a premiere, I'm just playing the video. It is not live, but I'm streaming it live. If I'm rerunning something I already did as a dedicated and correctly identified rerun, how is that any different than it's effectively the same thing. It's not there.
It's a pre-run.
Twitch seems okay. Twitch seems okay with the concept of it does not have to be live. They have two different ways to do that. So how is I guess is there even worry about like the live part not even being live, basically? It seems supported, so I guess it's okay.
I mean, I can only speak to the fact that that we even know necessarily about this because we know various parts as viewers. We know kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff of like a production aspect, right? Like we know that a Nintendo Direct is not live, that it is a pre-recorded and produced event, right? And that
or even Apple's anymore.
Yeah, Apple stuff anymore is like that. Black Magic, which is a company that does a lot of video production stuff that we use for Zeldathon, a lot of their stuff is also just like pre-recorded, and they stream on Twitch. They stream their events on Twitch, which I found out somewhat recently and was like, great, fantastic. But they do their things on YouTube. We know Critical Role used to be live, and now they are recording their things and broadcasting it. don't know like for sure, what people think about it. For people who are making these policy decisions and whatnot. But like you say, like the fact that the feature exists, there is still, some seemingly given intent that yes, this is, acceptable, a thing that is allowed to happen.
Fair enough.
All right, I'm just
I don't
gonna
know.
do 12 hours a day while I'm doing other stuff. Just
The other thing I will say is they will probably give you a warning before they just come and burn your house down. So give it a shot. Why not? I think we're going to
I
take
don't know exactly what they would do, so I can't comment on that.
You find out. We're going to take a 5-minute break, get up, change water tanks, empty one, fill one, stretch your legs, all of that. So thank you for being here. Stick around for a few. We will be back with you in about... Welcome back to the Blue House Bull Session. We are back with you. Hope you got your tanks exchanged properly. Hope you got up and stretched for a minute. Hope you're back. That's the most important part. Be here, watch us, enjoy our content, etc., etc. Just in case you are new here and coming in after the break, we are joined by my close personal friend Legos Jedi, who is down there somewhere. Down there. I see how this is laid out. Who I met through Zeldathon, and you know what? We never asked you that part of the story. How'd you get into
Sure.
Zeldathon?
Oh boy, how did I get into Zeldathon? That's a fun story. So Zeldathon. I met MC before I was a part of Zeldathon. Back in the day, before there was a Zeldathon development team, there was a thing called MCG Dev, which was a dev team that was more focused on MC kind of focused projects. And I joined that to do like mobile development-y type of things. And so I had, interactions with MC through that, interactions with certain Zeldathon team members through that, though at the time never actually involved with Zeldathon. That eventually got disbanded, and eventually, fast forward to, I want to say like winter of 2014. I think that's the right time frame. MC puts out on Twitter, "Hey, if anybody has any experience with PHP and PayPal, please reach out. We could use, help with that for Zeldathon stuff." And I'm like, well, I know PHP because at the time I wouldn't say more into web development, but that was earlier in like my development career, if you will. And that was fresher in my mind than iOS development. I had more experience with it at the time than with iOS development. And I was like, well, I'm sure I can figure out the PayPal API.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to him again, and it was like, hey, I can probably help you with this. And he's like, great, I'm going to get you added to the team or whatever. And pulled me into the people who were working on the the donation platform before then. But this is pre-Kinstone era, Jay.
Yeah.
If you ever see a reference to something called ZDP, this is that.
Platform. Yeah.
Zeldathon donation platform. Yep. This is that. And so came on to get that into shape for the winter 2014 event, which I believe was Zeldathon Hope. Helped get that into shape so that they could do donations. And then that was at the time frame where we still had these grand ideas of making this a donation platform that anybody could use. And I basically went and was like, this iteration of the code base is not going to get us there. If we're going to do this, and this is the thing that we want, then I am going to rewrite this from scratch, and started work on the thing that would eventually become Kinstone. And we launched that for the summer 2015 event, which I think was Recovery. And that was the event that I actually got an invite to actually like become official team and get involved in that. So that was like my intro, is having some interactions with MC first, and then getting involved with development stuff, and then getting involved with the event itself. I had been watching, on and off prior to that. It's funny how much of things come back to Minecraft YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
because the reason that I knew about MC and that Zeldathon existed in the first place was because I was watching Seth Bling and Ethos Lab, and they both made their way onto Mindcrack, and that was the server that at the time MC was also playing on, back when he still did Minecraft. And that was how I knew about Zeldathon as a thing, and started to slowly watch it on and off, and just become more involved kind of in the community, and being more involved in just like being a viewer as they were doing events. And then, I follow at the time, people follow a lot of people on Twitter. I don't use it as much anymore, but, much more active on Twitter, following the YouTubers that I, watched on YouTube, to be able to see essentially that job posting to then lead to me getting involved in this whole thing.
Yeah, they just opened segment submissions for the next event coming up, by the way, Zeldathon 1986. Gonna play this year. What do you submit? You're going to be on couch,
Um,
right? What are you going to play?
I'm probably going to submit for the things that I am most comfortable with, which is like the set of things that I more or less always submit, which is A Link to the Past. It is Minish Cap. It is, I can definitely do Twilight Princess. I can definitely do Skyward Sword, and I can do Breath of the Wild. I usually Wind Waker. I usually try to submit for games that I have beaten. And if I haven't beaten the game, I'll still put it in, but I'll just be like, yeah, I'm a little less familiar with this and whatnot. Like, I can
Yeah.
do it, but like, put me in as backup, not the primary person. Or like a case of like, hey, we know Twilight Princess is like a 10-hour game or whatever, you know, and I can be like game 1 or 2 or whatever, to take like the, you know, one half of it, and whatnot. So I thank you for the reminder that I need to submit that form.
Yes. I do
So
too.
I should get
Before
back
you
on that.
submit that, we should talk, though.
We should talk.
'Cause
We should talk.
We may have something to talk about regarding this.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I'm not going to say too much more. I'm just going to
No,
tease that a
'cause-
little bit like I always.
Because who knows? Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe it'll happen in, you know, summer of 2025. Who's to say?
I like the flexibility they give us with it, too. I like that we're
Yeah.
encouraged to kind of... I think we've done a really good job in bringing new stuff in general to Zelda.
Yes. I like that things have gotten. I feel like strict is the wrong word, but like things have gotten like more relaxed in
Yeah.
terms of the kinds of things that feel acceptable to do to run on stream, but also just the fact that we are feeling, you know, looser with like the need to like complete a game and not let that disrupt the schedule
Yeah,
or anything like that.
We're not
'Cause
GDQ,
that
and I
used to-
mean not just in the
Gosh.
sense of scale, I mean goals or whatever, but we're also not GDQ in that we are specifically focused around get through the thing as quick as possible. We're
Yeah.
there to entertain,
Yep.
and GDQ. Their focus is a little different. Yeah, they're there to entertain too, but they have a very different focus. We like
Which isn't to say that's bad or anything. It's
Right.
just, you know, a different intent and a different desire for the vibe and the kind of event that, you know, we want to put on.
I've been actively working on recruiting Uber Fuzzy here to join development team as well and get involved in Zeldathon.
What now?
Oh,
Sorry, what?
I'm trying to get you on the Zeldathon team one way or another, by hook or by crook, man. It's
All
going
right.
to happen.
All right.
Do you like PHP, Fuzzy?
Tell him about your background in PHP.
I saw
Okay.
you perk up when I was like, yeah, PHP and PayPal.
I've been using PHP long enough, and I distinctly remember when 3 came out and it was a major breaking change, and you had to have .php and .php3 files because they had to go to a different executable in the CGI bin. I have PHP experience.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Oh, he did.
I started learning PHP at the time that PHP 5 was being a thing. So a lot of the resources I had were still PHP
Yeah,
4
no,
focused. And it was like,
No.
the main thing was like, no, you don't create a constructor by having a function with the same name as the class. Now you have _ construct as your constructor for the class. And like those kinds of changes
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yes, I have a lot of PHP experience.
people come here voluntarily.
I've been using it for all of the years, basically.
Many,
It's
many.
still, it is still my go-to. Like, I need to write code to do a thing mechanically, like parse this file or change that. I will run PHP locally as my command line. Same way people are like, oh, I'm gonna write.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write. I'll do it in Python. I do it in PHP because it's just like,
Yeah.
it's
I
not
bounce-
perfect, but
I bounce back and forth between PHP and Swift for those kinds of things, where it's just like, what thing is going to be the easier to like do whatever I'm trying to do. Like the number of times that I've been like, I need to know how long this string is. I'm just going to like spin up a terminal and get, you know,
Yeah.
the PHP interpreter running and just give me, you know, string and like give me the length of the string.
So I have a great little anecdote for this. I was doing my entrance interview to ITT Tech when I was going there for school briefly, and I was testing out of a bunch of classes to join an in progress program to like join into where. So I had to like test out a bunch of classes, and one of the things was like, oh, you had to make like write this little like here's basically the design document for this tank battler game. Like you go
Mhm.
forward, it uses fuel, you turn, you fire. You know, it's like basically implement all these different operations. Like you could do it in. They said you could do it in any language you want. I said any language. They're like, sure. So I wrote them a command line. I wrote it in PHP. Did you know if you do a file open on PHP :/ input, it'll do a command input. You can get user gives you a CIN basically, and you can
Ooh,
like
I didn't know
have in,
that. I knew that that will give you like the entire request body if you're in an HTTP context,
no,
but
if you do it,
oh, that's cool.
it will turn into a input box so you could like print your menu and like type with your instruction and get that text and process it. So I wrote a interactive command line interpreter to do a tank game in PHP, and it was a thing. And I'm like, okay, start this one first because it's the server, then then start up yours, then start up the bot thing. So it's 3 separate instances, and they're like, you can do this in PHP. What the? And they're like, I thought you just made websites with this. I'm like, they're like,
Oh,
okay, I'm not even gonna read this. You can join the program. We're gonna give you the credit for
mhm.
whatever that was.
What one of I've got a couple of these fun memories from college, right? Because when I started doing development, it was high school. Started learning how to do websites. I think my sister had like a book on like it wasn't like an actual like textbook tutorial book on HTML. It was just like here's a reference book of HTML4 of like all of the tags and all the
Yeah.
attributes style thing. And I saw that and I was like, I want to know how to make websites, and I grabbed that and
Yeah.
started through there. So start with HTML, go with CSS, go with JavaScript, and then okay, I need a backend PHP and MySQL, right? So I had been doing PHP and MySQL for like 4 years by the time that I got to doing college classes that covered PHP and MySQL, right? And so there's this one class at the college that I went to, IT 202, that is your like intro to web development class that covers all of these things. And the first project that I turned in, the professor gave me a 200% on because I was that far ahead from like what everybody else was doing because I was doing all these things
You've been
before.
building crowd sites.
Right.
Yeah, you know what you're doing.
Right, exactly. And it was just like so far like advanced and like to the point that like we're doing a project that like we build on for a couple of projects for the semester, and you need to hand in physical copies of the source code. You need to print the source code and hand it
Yep.
in. And it got to the point that it was the final exam and I hadn't handed in the hard copy of the last assignment. So I print it off and I bring it in, and the professor sits down right before the exam starts, and I come up to him with probably this thick worth of printer paper of my source code because I had made the brilliant decision that like I want a templating engine for this. I want a
Yeah.
database abstraction. I'm going to use like Composer to pull in some dependencies and like print out all of this stuff. And so I go in and I'm like, "Hi, professor. Here's the hard copy of my thing." And I hold it up and drop it and let it fall and go thunk. And then the next thing I say is, "By the way, do I have to take the exam?" And he said, "No, you're good. Just sit there for 5 minutes and then walk out."
I had,
Uh, so good.
I had classes like that at ITT. They're like, just show up for attendance. Like
Yep.
I am not going to teach you anything. You're probably going to end up helping me teach the rest of the class.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I walked away from that degree. I didn't actually complete it.
So it goes. So it goes. It's a lot tougher to get started in the tech industry as a whole without a degree. Not because of the knowledge, but because you have to have a good way to prove it. And building a useful portfolio as a developer is getting
Yeah.
easier. Thank you, GitHub, but it's still really tough to get your foot in the door a lot of places.
I don't know. It's interesting because some of my friends that I knew in college had jobs in doing development, and they had dropped out to go do development. I mean, they were kind of in the same position as I was in the sense of they had been doing their own like personal projects and side
Yeah.
projects and stuff for a while. So they had that portfolio built up for sure. But But like once you've got that, I don't think the degree is as necessary.
No,
If
not
so long
it
as you
yet.
can like point to like here's something that I've built, or point to like code as like a sample or something to get like an entry level position. Like I was halfway through my degree at college and I was contemplating dropping out to basically go do what they did and be like, I'm gonna go join the New York Times and join their iOS development team and drop out of college to, because like I didn't feel like I was like really learning anything, and I was like I have the skills that I need for this job right now. Like why shouldn't I go and get the job right
Yeah,
now? You know?
absolutely.
It's kind of weird.
Hmm.
Like you look at anybody is going to do in like a graphic thing. Like you have like here is my literal portfolio. Here is
Hmm.
a bunch of art things I made, right? But you're seeing the finished product.
Yeah.
You go into software, like it's like yeah, you made a thing, but they don't like they more want to see the source code. They want to see what you wrote. It's not about the finished product because effectively that's all going to compile down to basically the same thing. They want to see how you did it. But like in the art world, you're not like here is my desk with all of my pens. You're not like here is my easel. Here's how I lay out my paints, but also here's the painting I made. But it's like in software, like you have to show like here is my selection of bits of string. Here's my soft the paint buckets, how I laid them out. It's like it's a weird, you know.
It is kind of an odd balance. All right, can I ask you two more Twitch questions?
Sure.
Do you guys get like free turbo or anything like that?
Uh,
Do you guys get
I think
discounts on anything?
I think people have talked about this publicly, so I think I'm safe. No, we do not get free turbo.
Fair.
Interesting.
Uh, there used to be a thing called Bitsbots that you could go and ping a Slack channel and get like 100 free bits a month, but that doesn't work anymore.
Oh dang, that's
And that hasn't
unfortunate.
worked. That hasn't worked for a while. I think that was
Weird.
broken before I joined.
Speaking of Slack, since you guys have Slack and there's all kinds of communication in the company, back on April 1st, here's this channel.
I don't know if you've heard about it.
called Pirate Software.
Hmm.
What was that like as it was ongoing on the? Like, were people blowing up in
You're
the
gonna
chat
have
there
to
too?
you're gonna have to refresh my memory on what specifically happened with Pirate Software on April 1st.
The world record hype train, biggest ever. Twitch awarded him 2 emotes for it. That thing.
It was after they raised the hype train used to
Yeah.
be 5, then they raised it to
Yeah.
55, and then he's like, okay, we set the high score at 55 plus 117 per 600% because like the math just
Mhm.
didn't complete, and they
Yeah.
raised it, and
Yep.
everybody got together and said, hey, let's set the bar. Oh no, it was right after, it was part of the April 1st. They had announced the new hype train emote infinite kappa. Like they said, okay, we're gonna raise the bar, and everybody's like, okay, April 1st, we're gonna get that one, and they did, and then the API broke trying to process it, and they thought it was over, and it kept going. They're like, what's going on? They're like, we don't know. The math is not mathing, and it kept going, and they set the high score at level 106.
Yeah. I remember somebody
And
posting
he was
about,
in a
because
banana costume.
this wasn't the first time that they had done this, right? Because he had
No.
done it once, and then like one of his friends or like a fellow streamer
Barbaro.
took it. Yep. And then this was them taking it back. So like we already had like the context. People were posting that this was happening. And I remember somebody posted about it, and I went and hopped in the chat and like watched it happen. And I know that my productivity tanked while it was going on because
Yeah.
it was just so like mesmerizing, of just like what is happening? Like this progress bar is just going, and then it's going again, and then it's going, and it's like bonkers. It's really interesting just how much, for his community specifically, how much like when that happens, it just derails his streams too.
Yeah.
In that like, okay, like whatever happens, like they've hit like level 25 or whatever, and he just stops what he's doing, and it's like we're focusing on this because like obviously you viewers are like, want this to happen and are making this happen, so we're just gonna pause what I'm doing and just focus on this for a bit. It's It was wild, especially like at the end when you see like the actual like raw concrete numbers of
Oh,
how many
yeah.
subs and how many bits went into that. You're just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
as somebody viewing that, you're just like, holy cow.
He very publicly talked about this. He just hired his entire mod team,
Hmm.
like full time with benefits and 401ks, and he's shipping them. Oh God, what he's giving them new computers too, because a lot of them they're like on whatever they're just
Yeah.
kids, young adults, like they're just on whatever janky computer.
You can't
doing
moderate
it.
a stream from an iPhone. Sorry.
One of
sorry.
his
I'll be
mods
back.
like doesn't have a dedicated like a discrete GPU. It's like he's just running off of inboard graphics and doing stuff. And like, no, we're gonna get you a new computer. But he's taking that money and he just rolls it back into. I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
his Twitch mods, which for a guy who streams 12 hours a day,
I don't know how
it's
he
a
does
lot of
it.
mods.
Like, I see that he goes
do.
live at like 3 a.m. Eastern and like is up for like 8 hours. I'm like, how do you do this?
No. I built a thing for Cafe. I built a editor, and I started streaming one day at noon, and I just kept going and I kept working on it until I was done. And that stream ended up being like 17 hours. So I totally like if you get focused on the right thing,
Yes.
time
This-
ceases
this-
to exist.
No, it's the standard ADHD problem. Like
Yeah.
I've fallen into that myself. I totally get that. It's more of the like I'm not the kind of person who could like wake up and start a stream at like 3 a.m. and then start streaming for 8 hours, you know? Like I would need to like get on the sleep
Writing-
schedule or whatever, but it's also just like boy, that
He's
just
got a
sounds
short
like
about it.
effort.
It was writing like a certain curve of like late night people, but also
Yeah.
like European people and stuff. And like he found the perfect curve. He found the perfect elliptic curve that like
Yeah.
hit all the right people in the morning and the things and yeah.
If I could get away from the day job, I think I could do that. I'm nowhere near as charming as Thor is. I don't.
Well, that's
his
the thing.
his voice is so good.
Like getting your ears massaged with velvet gloves. I could listen
Well,
to
that's the
man
thing,
read me
like-
the phone book. Yeah.
He's been streaming for like 7 or 8 years at this point, and his rise entirely because of the move to cross streaming onto YouTube at the same time, and then that made it easier to cut those out and make YouTube Shorts, which blew up and like it
Yeah,
just
that's how I found him. Is that he started coming across on my For You page on TikTok,
Yeah.
with like really interesting and really well done like little snippets of his streams.
I had already followed his ferret stream. 'Cause a friend of mine and Jay's like has ferrets, and he said there's a whole guy who just streams his ferret room basically, and I would have that on sometimes, try to catch when they're playing and stuff. So I was following the ferret software thing before pirate software because and that's just like, and I started watching Thor like as that was going up. He just had his follower counter just going, just like that just going live like last fall, just watching. He's like, I don't know what to do. I wake up and there's another digit of people with an order of magnitude that weren't there yesterday, and it was just like he's just a guy that's just making it like it's not like he's he's not a ninja or whatever. He's not like a big YouTube streamer host person. He's not a personality. He's a guy just writing a game and helping other people, and then his graph to growth is a vertical line.
Bonkers.
It is a square wave of just on, off, then on, and it's just like
Here's open, man. We're gonna make it one of these.
Pirate Software shorts have become the new XKCD reference. There's a short for that. There is. Oh, he's already talked about this. There's a thing like you can't find any of them, but it's like I watch him. I accidentally end up being a night owl all the time, and it's 3 a.m. I'll go throw him on. I'll sit and watch all day, like streaming or gaming or whatever. It's like I've just learned so much from him over the last 9 months as I had a bunch of free time looking for a new job and stuff. I will admit I will watch him open to close some days and just be like, just absorbing his knowledge. And yeah, it's why I started. He's why I got affiliate. I started streaming software again,
Mhm.
and people liked it, and I still do. And
We have
Yeah.
an internal Discord for Hergel Studios, and roughly a quarter of the posts in there end up being, "Hey, did you see this one yet?" And it's just a link to a short on YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's great. It's perfect. It is exactly what I want, and he gives the right kind of advice for groups like us doing that kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's coming up for you next? I know we've got Zeldathon 1986 coming up.
Yeah.
What else do you have on like your charity and your event radar? What else can we expect
So
this year?
So the other big thing that is firm and set in stone this year, I mentioned this at the start of the stream. I'm the person that builds and maintains the overlay for the Unprepared Casters charity streams. Unprepared Casters is an actual play podcast that bills itself as a podcast that does a spin-off of a spin-off of a spin-off. They started with a short-ish arc D&D campaign of like 6 episodes, and then they take a piece of that campaign and spin off another campaign of about 6 episodes based off of that, and then take a piece of that campaign and spin off another one for about 6 episodes based off of that. They do a yearly and annual charity stream raising for Trans Lifeline. That's coming up on June 8th. Let me check my calendar to make sure I got that right. Yes, June 8th. That will be over right here, actually, on the Unprepared Casters Twitch channel. They'll be streaming for like 12 hours or something dumb. They've got a nice, good, like cast of people that they've already announced, and I don't think they've announced some other people. Let's see exactly what they've mentioned, so I know what I am allowed to mention. I know they have announced. Twitter doesn't want to load. I know that they have announced Jordan Brown, like the unofficial dropout reporter on TikTok. I know that they have announced.
I love Jordan.
Why? Hang on. Let me just go to the Discord because they cross post the tweets, and so I can just use that as a reference. They've got Pirate Princess Jess. They've got Brendan Lee Mulligan and Vic Michaelis. And they've got other people that I don't as much recognize from things outside of Unprepared Casters, so I don't know if those names would ring any bells. But they're going to have so many more people announced in the coming days that are going to be taking part in this charity live stream. They'll be playing D&D. I believe it is D&D. I don't think they're using another system. Like I said, for like 12 hours straight, at least. All fundraising for Trans Lifeline. I'll be watching that. I'll have that on and chilling out in the Twitch chat if you want to come by for that. What else do I have going on? We talked about Zeldathon. Zeldathon 1986 is coming up in August. I think that's everything that's kind of planned and set in stone right now. I think those are the 2 big things.
Is there discussion happening about the next mini kit?
There hasn't been any discussion as of yet, though it is a discussion that needs to be had amongst the admin team. So thank you for the reminder there.
Are you looking for someone to play a Lego game?
We always like people to play Lego games. You and I may sync up, Jay. We'll see. We'll see.
Like Lego Picross, huh? Tee. I don't know.
That could be cool.
Be neat. Might be neat.
Could be fun.
Only
could be
if-
fun.
Does the interface actually like put down?
Oh
the
yeah,
studs,
you'll have to
on a
actually
plate?
snap the 1x1s onto the plate in the puzzle. That's how it's gonna work.
Actually, if you think about it, if you like make a template to like it prints it out, you cut out the square, you lay it over a base plate, so it's got the numbers, like you just put the puzzle over a physical thing, you do it, and then you have the physical pick cross like picture in studs or plates or whatever.
Yeah, that could be cool.
That's scary. Now I'm getting all sorts of terror. I could see this going awful place.
Jay has opened a text document to write something down.
What's that line of Legos? It's like the little cap studs, but they're flat and they make art out of them.
Oh,
Dots or
yeah, I
something.
think that's it. Lego Dots or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they've done the ones they've done. No, it's not Dots. It's something else, isn't it?
Pips, studs. It's something short like that. It's like that's a great name, but also that's horrible for SEO.
Because they do have some sets that are like just like paintings of sorts, right? They've
Yeah.
done like I think they've done like an Andy Warhol set. They've done some Star Wars stuff. I'm pretty sure they've done a Marvel.
I've bought in the Iron Man the
Yeah,
Marvel one.
I don't know
But it's
what
like for little
theme.
kids, they're flat. They're
Yeah.
flat stud.
That I think is the Dots. Because it's like the arts and craftsy thing of like I'm gonna make like a a bracelet or something, yeah?
Yeah, what are those?
I think that's the Dots theme.
Oh. Or now we're like totally lost in the Legos. I don't even have
Right.
a Lego like,
Lego brands.
I take it it's a safe assumption you're into actually physically building.
Yes. Yes, I have I have a few sets sitting in boxes that I want to build, that I need to build. I want to get the massive AT-AT set before it's discontinued at the end of the year. I don't have a place to put it once it's assembled, so it's probably just going to sit in a box until I move somewhere else.
Somewhere way back there's one of the OG R2D2 kits. Like the
Ooh.
old ones.
I had
And-
the Lego Mindstorms R2D2 kit.
Oh man. Oh man.
That was a
Man.
cool set. Yeah.
They killed Mindstorms at the worst possible time. If they would have kept
Really?
that just a couple more years, it would have latched. Could you imagine with all the rise of coding and like they killed it.
So
Somebody, oh man,
so that intro to game development class that I took in high school, right?
Yeah.
The first part of that class was just an intro to programming to kind of get to that mindset using Mindstorm stuff. And I had been doing some, software development, for a little bit up until that point. So I convinced the teacher to give me 2 of the kits instead of 1, and I built from one of those kits the like crane like set model that like the instructions gave you, and then from the other one built a set of treads and attached the 2 together. That kit, those brains were Bluetooth enabled. And so I wrote some Mac software to connect to those 2 brains and to accept input from a Wiimote and nunchuck to control the crane and treads using the Wiimote and nunchuck.
All right, that's downright unreal, and I love it. Love it.
it was dots, by the way.
Ah, yes, dots.
Stop dots. 50 DKP minus.
That's what I named my my points. DKPs.
Yeah, Fuzzy's channel points are DKP. Any interest in doing a build stream sometime? If you're into that kind of stuff. No, I know Fuzzy does them. You should give it a shot. Put the Legos in Legos Jedi.
I've recorded a couple of bumpers of like build time lapses for some Zeldathon events. I feel like I have done some build streams before. The tricky thing is just finding the right space to do it. You need a lot of like tabletop space, and
True.
my desk is not as big as it once was, so it doesn't lend itself well to doing those streams anymore. So now if I want to do a build stream, I have to like clear off a table and set up a whole bunch of equipment to do those streams. It's not as frictionless as I would like it to be, to do these things kind of on the regular. So
Fair
You
enough.
could be a crazy person that has
Or are you going to show off the thing?
Then I have a
Yeah.
whole overhead camera mount
Yeah.
thing.
No, like, so we we made the decision at one point. I forget how far back this was, but our ooh, look at you with the connects.
I built it out of Connects.
Yes. Um, we run mini kit out of our house, and we take over like our entertainment room, and convert that into our streaming setup. And we were just like, we know we're going to be in this house for a little bit, and we know that I stream, and we know that my roommates stream. Let's just do like a full conversion of this space to have an always like ready to go streaming setup. And so we like bought all the equipment, and we mounted lights, and we got the camera set up, and we mounted monitors for like chat and controlling OBS and everything. And it's like set up as like a ready to go,
Studio.
turn on a computer. Yeah, a studio. Just turn on the computer, launch OBS, turn on the lights, and you're basically ready to go for streaming from that couch.
Nice.
And like that has like greatly simplified the setup for MiniKit too, because we use like, some different mics, and we need to like adjust the camera angles or whatever, but like everything else more or less like stays the same, and so it just drastically cuts down on setup time for MiniKit too, which is great.
That's
it's so
clever.
good.
I'm gonna have to remember and/or steal that idea. 'Cause that is
Yep.
good.
That's what I was trying to set up over there, is I have an whole IKEA table that I had set up to do that,
Mhm.
because this used to be where my work laptop was.
Yeah.
So I'd have to like just unplug all my stuff to make room to do that, and then it's like, okay, I'll set up a table over there, but then it's like, well, how do I like monitor? I can set up the camera, but how do I monitor chat over here? Because there wasn't
Yep.
a great phone app for monitoring and managing your stream. There wasn't. Like that's what I was gonna do. It's like I have all these kits, they're on my YouTube and stuff, but like I have all these things I like to build, those wooden puzzles and
Hmm.
stuff like that, or those little 3D. Where's yeah, I'll grab that one.
Got a good one.
Like these things, like those 3D plastic puzzles
yeah,
you see.
yeah.
They're like $5-10 at like Walmart. I love building these things, like especially like the clear ones, because like here's a 1,000 clear pieces of plastic with weird shapes. Put it together, like oh okay. It's a T-Rex right somewhere.
A small handful of people know from watching Zeldathon, you are additionally a musician.
Yeah.
How did you first get into music? How did you get into drums? I'm going to ask about that specifically.
So, well, you should ask how did I get into music and not how did I get into drums, because the answer to how did I get into music starts earlier than how did I get into drums.
I'll let you answer however you see fit. I'll take that.
I started taking piano lessons at a very young age. My mom actually taught me how to play piano to start off with, and then I started taking lessons from various other people who gave lessons, and more or less took piano lessons up until college, and it just got, with the workload, kind of infeasible to kind of carry that on. But the last person that I took piano lessons from started a School of Rock location close to where I lived at the time, and this was at the time where I was still going to church, and we had a drummer who then left, and we felt like we were going to lose something by not having a drummer. And so one Saturday, my dad, the pastor of the church, takes me to a guitar center, and we buy like a used kit and bring it home for me to practice. And then the following morning, I'm there, with the rest of the worship band playing drums with them. And so we have a kit. My piano teacher is involved with the School of Rock, and they give drum lessons. And I started taking some drum lessons there. Did not, I wouldn't necessarily say stick with it for very long. I feel like I stuck with it for a decent amount of time, but again, for the same reasons that I kind of fell off with taking piano lessons, fell off of taking drum lessons.
Yeah.
But kept playing with the worship team, and kept just through that just practicing and honing my skill and whatnot. Just yeah, I don't where do I go from here? I don't have a kit anymore. I don't have space for a kit. I've got a little MIDI controller keyboard up in my room that I dabble with sometimes. I have an acoustic guitar. I've got an electric guitar. My roommates have a bass that I could pick up if I ever wanted to. So I've got options. I've wanted to participate as part of Zeldathon's Jam Train for a while. And
I
this
was
past
just going to
couple
ask
of-
if you were going to join Jam Train with us this year.
I would like to. We'll see how everything shakes out. Because a lot of it, like I said, I am the broadcast lead. A lot of those kinds of levels of involvement are dependent on kind of staffing of all of the different things, all the different stations that we need to run Jam Train.
Fair.
And so if there is sufficient staffing, I will likely jump in and
We'll make it
participate.
We'll make it.
'Cause I had
stick
a lot of
MC
fun
back
the
there
last
if I
time.
have to. You're like, look, I know you want to just participate this time. I know you don't want to be in charge for 1 hour. Run broadcast 1 hour. Do Jam Train. I know you are qualified to do it because you run every event ever. No, that's
Yeah.
one of my favorite parts of the entirety of them. It's tough for me to say there's a part of the marathon that's not my favorite part because it's all great. But
Yeah.
Jam Train is absolutely a highlight.
Jam Train is a highlight for me too, as well, from like the broadcast perspective, because I feel like it is one of like the consistent segments that allows broadcast team to like kind of show off in a sense,
Yeah.
you know, that we get to have fun and utilize a lot of the gear that we have more to its fullest potential than we do during the regular run of the show.
Yeah,
that's why, you know,
the PTZs were nice, but like a couch scene, you're going to be looking at the couch. There's not much you can do to make a show out of that from a technical standpoint.
well, I mean, the one, which one was it? The Legend of Zelda Lethal Company segment that was some pretty good fun. I apologize, but also don't apologize for the things that I put on that green screen.
I loved that. Every moment of it, I loved that.
It's so good.
You know,
Oh,
Campy's,
my goodness.
Campy's into anything you want to do too, man. He's so flexible.
That was a fun event because I feel like we're like really, what's the best way to put this? We're starting to like really nail down our like video pipeline and like really understand how we want to route video around the space, right? So, gosh, I feel like I could go on a tangent for broadcast stuff for a while. Do we have a hard cutoff for this podcast? Because like if you let me talk, I will talk.
I will absolutely let you. We usually wrap around 8, but I got nothing else going on, man.
Well, no. We'll save the rant for the after show. It'll be exclusive on Patreon.
But first, we're going to talk to you about our sponsor, Squarespace.
Oh,
Go to audible.com/whatever to get
NordVPN.
10%.
There's there's
ExpressVPN. Oh my gosh.
not Squarespace. Did you see what happened with them?
no. What's
weren't they acquired somewhat recently?
And they're taking them. They're reprivating them.
Oh wow.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, for a fairly good amount. Like everybody that bought has a sock, so they're getting a pretty good cut of it. But like they're taking it reprivate. It's like that's weird.
That makes me curious.
No, they're chunking out money real good because
Interesting.
the product works. I hate to admit it. As a web developer, they can just shit out a website probably just as easily. From with customability, like some people just want to drag and drop a website together and have it be done.
Which is why this week's sponsor is Wix.com. We'll recommend the other one. Why not?
Speaking
Let me
of
talk
Wix,
to you about Factor Meals.
Hey, those were actually good. They're
I don't know.
pricey.
I don't.
I did have them for life. I gave in. I watched RC Test Flight. He makes all the RC weird plane boat autonomous things. He was pitching them like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna try Factor for a while. I needed meal prep because I was working weird hours. I'm like, I want to be able to just push button get food that is
Yeah.
semi healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I tried Factor because we used to be we tried all the Blue Apron type things. I'm like, I just want I want good TV dinners, basically.
Yeah.
Factor they're actually pretty good. They're a little more pricey than I'd like, but if you're the type of person that needs Factor for what it is, you're probably busy enough that you're willing to pay that convenience.
Yeah. You're literally buying time at that point.
This is an unofficial endorsement. Like, the food doesn't suck. As a person who likes food, Factor is actually pretty good.
Speaking of liking food, here, I'm going to completely throw one more dumb Zeldathon thing. There's still nothing where Bar Louie used to be.
That's so frustrating because it's such a convenient spot.
So,
it's
are we just going to get Taco Bell every day again? Because having lunch with you
I would like to not.
another highlight of the event.
It's one of those things that, like, I would like to not eat Taco Bell every single day.
Yeah.
But you can't beat the convenience, and just going out to have, like, lunch as a break with friends and just, like, talk. Like, that's always a good time.
It is. I'm gonna have to see who we can get to put in a franchise of something good over where Bar Louie is. Can I get him to put in a Skyline Chili? Can we put in a what's the least offensive, like, fast casual chain? I don't want to say Applebee's. That's not the answer. What would you want to see over there? If you had your druthers, what would you like to see over in that spot?
Mom's Diner.
I know this is a little bit controversial right now, but that's one within driving
Chick-fil-A?
distance. I can't say Chipotle. There's a Chipotle within driving distance. Oh. It's not too far. And again, I know a little controversial right now. Oh gosh, what would I put in there?
There was a Chipotle in driving range. I'll look at my map again.
Yeah. It's in the same direction as the Potbelly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it definitely needs to be like another sit down kind of place, or some place to, like, you know, because you kind of, like, for everything else that's in that parking lot and everything else that's around, like, you kind of want a spot like that. So, you know, like an Applebee's, like a Chili's, like a what have you. Honestly, a Chili's wouldn't be bad.
There is an IHOP within driving-ish distance. You can drive to an IHOP, but I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind a breakfasty place, or a place that has breakfast available. Yeah, if they put a Denny's in there, I know Denny's, but Denny's would work. Denny's would work very well.
Mm-hmm.
Just put a Waffle House in.
what's the worst that could happen?
Well, we met some of our team. Nope. I'm good. I'm not gossip or trouble there. I just know poor Jiggy's gonna starve to death without his. All right, I think we are going to wrap up here shortly. Thank you once again for being with us. I'm going to give you another shout out here. Legos Jedi, our good friend, friend of the channel, friend of Zeldathon, friend of many, many people. He says as he struggles to type in his name. Keep an eye on him because hopefully he'll be doing some more game development streams soon. I'm really excited to see what you get put together from all of that too.
I have a lot of progress that I have done off stream that I haven't talked about on stream, so I certainly have things to talk about.
Boy, howdy am I excited. We're getting that point with Cafe. I'll have to let you know when I'm doing my next cafe stream so you can come in and start some fires there too.
Go follow the category so it'll get fed to you.
Can you shout out a category? I don't think I can. I'll have to remember that. But you can follow the category for Let's Cafe. You can indeed. I will be back later this week doing some stuff with that. I will be back on Friday doing music. I'm not going to get accidentally roped into another 50-hour stream babysit. Oh, wait. No, I don't have to do that. Okay, I'm thinking about it. Paulo Live got announced, and I have to be available for a morning segment for something on that. But
Interesting.
okay, maybe I can talk about it. Jiggy convinced me to get his Zelda Wheel Blitz up and running. We're taking away his ability to stall with it, okay? You donate $10, the wheel spins and the game changes, and he has no control over that. So, yeah, Caller Live is this weekend. I'll make sure I've got details in the Discord, which, by the way, if you are not in there, please join our Discord, see what's going on. Yeah, any other parting thoughts? I think I've shouted out all the things I want to yell at everybody. I appreciate all of you so much for being here. Thank you, Fuzzy, as always, for being my excellent co-host and best friend forever. Thank you, Legos Jedi, for joining us and talking through all the stuff that's going on. Come back anytime. Share some more stories with us. And
yeah,
with
of course.
that,
Thank you so much for having me.
And with that, we cue the music. Thank you guys again. We will catch you next time around.